We can hear you.
Someone's writing on chat.
I can hear
You
them
can
through
hear
here.
it,
No,
but it's not amplified. Huh. Better go through a speakerphone.
All right, well, if they've got the microphone, that's something.
says it's in use.
I can hear you fine.
Still coming through here.
So you're hearing it
Yeah,
over there.
I thought I was over there, yeah.
So maybe I can do this again from here and just do the speaker. So we can hear other people.
Oh, you know what? It's,
Click go.
here we go. Try that.
How about now? Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? If you're talking, we can't hear you. It looks like your lips are moving, but I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yay.
All right, apologies. The computer needed to be updated and coaxed to work. So I think we are present to
Present to
speak,
speak.
right? Okay. Again, public participation is encouraged now that we are capable. I will start with, in the room. Is anyone in the room for present to? Peter?
Peter Lipinvich, 97 Trask Road. I just want to express my concern again at the lack of transparency surrounding the school building committee that's being put into place. It's a bit frustrating that we had difficulties with town meeting and the call. The language that was used that didn't resemble what we were actually doing, but we're told that this was required by the state. Which subsequently proved not to be true. We then had a meeting between Christmas and New Year's, a special meeting by the Board of Selectmen to appoint the committee, which is an important event in our town's participation in this process. And I would hazard to say that that's probably not a time people are even in town or many people are around, but yet you chose to do that. I've been struggling to understand what it is this building committee would do. That would mean understanding what the charge of it is, something that perhaps we should have had already. I searched for it and did find some discussion of it in your December 15th meeting. No reading of the charge to the public, no copy of it attached to the minutes. And I'm not understanding why something so important would be withheld from the townspeople. And now I'm seeing on your agenda tonight something called an ad hoc school building committee, which is even more confusing because we don't understand what the charge of the school building committee is that we hold at the town meeting. A project of this scale and scope requires the public trust, not just securing funding. And it seems we're off to a bad start. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room? Okay, online, Nick, we'll start with Nick.
Nick Tello, Myrtle Road, Wellington. So I guess first, I'm not sure what business was conducted prior today in the meeting, what we missed or not. Maybe you can go over that after. Good. I'm sorry, what was that?
No business was conducted when the Zoom was out.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And just speaking on the charge, I haven't, you know, I haven't been following this closely, so I'm not sure if the charge is written or not. Last time I knew, when we had the town meeting, it was basically, hey, you're to build a new school and that's it. It wasn't looking at all options. And that was a big problem last time we went through this process. Many people didn't see all the choices: building new, renovation, just doing repairs. And it looks like we're heading down that path again. Maybe I'm completely out of the loop, and that could be it. But that was my understanding from the town meeting last time we all met. I hope when this committee and everything is moving forward, that they reevaluate and have numbers to present to the public, looking at every single option. And if build new is built the best option, then let's do it, right? But educate everybody on every single dollar amount. That's my suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other, we have a waiting room, Shannon. All right, anybody else present to speak? Okay. Moving on to correspondence. Shannon, do we have anything? I don't think we do. Because there was correspondence in the previous meeting discussed, which was the letter, from a citizen talking about sort of long-range capital planning and looking at our properties and all that. The response letter did go back out to that person, so I guess there's correspondence out related to correspondence with this.
I sent that to them too.
Yes, you guys have copies. Okay, tax refunds. I move that we approve a refund to Donald R. Berg for an overpaid tax of $56.97. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I move that we approve a refund for Sharon L. Foley for an overpaid tax of $66.27.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I move that we approve a refund to Eric G. Nichols for an overpaid tax of $52.54.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. I move that we approve a tax refund also to Eric Nichols of $73.31.
Second.
All, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And last but not least, I move we approve a tax refund to Nissan Infinity LT LLC for overpaid taxes on, looks like 2 accounts, for a total of $250.49. I got a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Would you mind me after the finance, Shannon? Okay, Public Works report. Washing trucks after storms, picking up trash at the park, picked up and chipped brush after a windstorm, vehicle maintenance, vehicle and equipment repairs, garage maintenance, plowing and salting roads. I'm sure the public has noticed that a lot of our plowing and salting events have been happening overnight. Or early morning, so there's been a lot of activity for Public Works on that, and throws them out of doing regular work. And we also did in this past storm, by some random luck, had 4 fairly minor failures on 4 different trucks. So in the course of about 14 hours, we broke 4 trucks. All of those trucks are now repaired. And as of today, the last one was fixed, so they're all running again. Please remind residents that salt and sand is only available at the transfer station Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday for residential use, 2 buckets per trip. The salt and sand at the Public Works garage is not for residential use. It's needed for the public roads, parking lots, and sidewalks. And I will just add my comment on that too. That is also a safety issue, having people in the Public Works yard where the trucks are moving around, getting personal sand, loading sand and salt to their personal vehicles.
So those of us who prefer to use straight sand and no de-icing chemicals are out of luck,
Because what's at the transfer station is mixed.
pre-mixed, yes.
It has to be because it sits there.
Yeah, to keep it from freezing. That's an excellent question. Maybe we can look into whether we can get some plain sand.
Because customarily, when a need arises, I try to hit the sand pile.
I believe I just read a notice telling you nothing.
Yes, you did.
Um,
And I just admitted
All right.
I do.
so let's look into seeing if we can get some plain sand for people who don't want to use a mix.
Okay, because on gravel driveways, salt's not a wise thing to use.
Right.
Yeah, some people don't want to use it for other reasons too. Okay. Cool idea. I'll let you know in the future how that goes.
Cool.
Okay.
No, we'll be good.
Um. Okay, state police report. I think this new format is sort of readable. If I am following it correctly, for the month of December, there were 211 calls for service. There were 12 traffic stops that were not on the highway. All sorts of numbers here. All sorts of things from picking up debris in the road to patrol checks to assisting citizens, 20 car crashes of some type. One criminal mischief.
And we still don't separate what's on 84 versus what's local.
Well, they do for the car crashes, non-LAH car crashes. That's,
Yeah.
that's the one thing they separate. We've made progress.
Good. That's helpful.
It's not what we ultimately would want, but we're getting there. Okay, first selectman status report. This will maybe hit on a couple of the items that were discussed in present to speak as well. The charge for the school building committee has in fact been approved by the Board of Selectmen. Once the response, once it was sent out after the meeting to check with the other board members to make sure the edits were done after the meeting correctly. And the rest of the appointments were made. The charge letter was sent out to all of the appointed people. And it has started getting distributed now. Do you know if it's on the website yet?
As of today, it is not.
Okay,
I'll
so
put
it's
it-
supposed to be getting put on the,
I'll put it on Twitter.
and I think Phil or Brenda's putting it on the SBC, in the SBC section also.
Well, I think we should be careful there because we have an SBC section webpage for the SBC, but it's the previous SBC.
That's all being fixed. Yep,
So.
We're working on that.
that's just, it was a broken, it's a broken link for from the website to the school website. Because of the change of websites, and we have asked for it to get fixed. It'll get fixed sometime in the next day or two when the IT people remap it.
Okay.
So, that will be correct. But if you go in the way we have been going for years, if you don't go through the main town website and you go right to the public schools website and go to district information, you can go, you have a choice of the old school building committee or the new school building committee. And the charge was supposed to already be in there. Did you look and see if it's in there?
No, because I was looking at the town website,
Right.
because this is the Board of Selectmen's committee.
Yes, I understand that. I'm just asking if you happen to
No,
look that.
I did
over or
not.
Okay. So when that's fixed, that link on the main website will take you to the new school building site. To address the concerns about all the different school options, the school building committee, based on some language we discussed in the meeting on the 15th. The school building committee has the charge to look at more than just any singular option. There is more there's more runway than that. The school building committee, I believe we added specific language talking about the repair issues and all that other stuff. So I am sure public input, the charge, and those of us asking, I'm sure we will make sure that all those topics are addressed. We're continuing to work on web improvements, as you've heard us discuss here tonight. We are working on finalizing the Everbridge. And I keep wanting to say Eversource, the Everbridge, which will be a public notification system, which people will have the ability to opt into. This, as of today, I reviewed with Mike D'Amato the new inspection format in the electronic inspection software that allows the fire marshal to move from paper inspections to electronic inspections, which will be saved in the same system that all the building permits and everything else are in. I've had discussions with our IT people, some of our department heads, the emergency manager and the fire marshal about what the town facilities as well as functions have in place for contingency and resiliency plans, thinking back to our 10-day power outages from snowstorms, or if heaven forbid there's a fire in one of the town buildings, how do we get back up and running? Because I've spent my life in emergency services, I would say that I feel our contingency plans and our business continuity plans and all that are not anywhere near where they should be. So that's gonna be a project ongoing as well. Some of the things are pretty simple. The network this building is on is available in the fire station next door and at center school. So that's an easy one. It's a matter of adding some jacks in the building somewhere. If we had to abandon this building for some reason, we could plug in computers over there and start town hall operations back up. But there would be hiccups. There's things like there are no computers other than the ones in this building. So again, heaven forbid there's a fire.
Where's the main server?
Some of the stuff is in that cabinet right there. Some of the stuff is cloud. So these are all things, and our phone system is based in this building too, so if we can't operate this building and power this building, no one can call on the standard town phone numbers. So this is something, again, because of my career and lifetime, gives me an itchy feeling. So, I have been working without a lot of success with Public Works on trying to get Scholar Painting, which is the contractor working on the old town hall, to come to the table. We had a Zoom meeting scheduled back in December that they insisted they were in the waiting room for, and we all sat there in the meeting for 20 minutes talking to each other, waiting for them to show up, and I'm sure they weren't in the waiting room. But they said we were there all the time, and I've repeatedly asked for meetings since then. So my plea to them again today is the last plea that I'll make nicely, asking them to come to the table, and we'll have to take other action. Spent a reasonable certain amount of time on the school building committee prep, the letters for appointment letters and all that other stuff, preparing emails. And let's see what's left. And then really spent a good bit of time in the last few days working on the finance office staffing plan and selectman's office staffing plan, which we'll discuss next in new business when we get to those agenda items. That's it for first selectman status report. Any questions from you two? No. All right. New business, Conservation Commission ordinance change discussion. Someone like to speak on that?
Good evening, I'm Kathy Demers, and I'm the chairperson of the Conservation Commission. Jackie Kulig is with us tonight, she's also on the commission, and Bob Shabbat's in the audience. We had sent some information to the Board of Selectmen regarding some ordinances we would like to propose that support farming and agriculture in town. Do you have copies? Because if you don't, we'll
I don't have that on my desk. Thank you for bringing new copies.
Should I just hand up the letter?
Sure, yeah. Jackie, you give them the one to the other towns that support. That'd be great, thanks. So for the past year, the Conservation Commission has been working toward some options that will support agriculture in town. As you know, farming is a very challenging business with what we have for more severe weather, prices of land, production, food production. Well, we want to support our farmers. We want to provide more regional access to food in town. We want to make sure we're protecting our farmland soils. So what we're proposing tonight, we feel are some good options that the town, we're recommending the town consider. I can kind of walk you through, this is kind of a lengthy overview and some supporting documents, but I'll walk you through it if you want to turn to page 2.
Okay, yeah, I've read through all of this and you're right. So if you want to start with sort of the highlights, what you think is the critical.
And before I go too far, let me just read something from our plan of conservation and development, which is our 2018 plan, which is scheduled to be updated in a few years. But basically, when we're talking about farms and farmland soil, farms and agricultural land contribute to community character. They preserve our rural landscape. They enhance the regional economy. They help make the region more self-sufficient in its food supply. While farms only generate modest tax revenue in the municipality, their service demands are very low, and they are more fiscally positive than other forms of residential development, which require more in service expenditures than they provide in tax revenue. So again, another reason we're trying to preserve our farms. They cost the town very little in terms of services compared to having these lands, which are often very attractive to developers to come in and put solar farms or, large buildings, commercial buildings. We want to prevent that from happening in town. We have a history here in town of an agricultural community. Our Economic Development Commission right now has been looking at a strategic plan. If you've read that plan, it also looks at agriculture and supporting that as an economic activity in town. So what we'd like to do is propose 3 ordinances to support farming. The first one is called the Proposed Right to Farm Ordinance in Wellington. And what this basically does is just reaffirms and restates Connecticut's right to farm law, which is part of our state statutes. So it's not really a change. It's just reaffirming that the town of Wellington supports that. It's kind of an acknowledgement to farmers in town that we support you. There's also some things in that ordinance which would basically kind of protect farms from being overly regulated regarding odors, noise, dust that, is very typical on farms. So that's really the first of those ordinances that we would like to ask the town to consider putting in place. And there's a reference on page 2 at the bottom. It just referenced the Connecticut General Statute for the right to farm ordinance. And then that continues on page 3. I'm just going to jump to page 4. So the 2 other ordinances that we'd like to propose are actually tax exemption ordinances. And the first one would provide an additional property tax exemption for farm machinery. So currently under state statute, the first $250,000 in assessed value of farm machinery is exempt from taxation. And there's also the state statutes also allow municipalities to provide an additional exemption of up to $250,000 more on assessed value. So we would like to suggest the town of Wellington adopt an ordinance to provide that additional exemption for property tax for farm machinery to the maximum extent of an additional assessed value that's allowed by state statute. And then the second proposal is that we'd like to ask the town to consider providing a tax exemption on farm buildings that are used exclusively in farming or housing farm employees. And the statute allows towns to exempt up to $500,000 assessed value per farm building. So for both of these ordinances, and by state statute, anybody who would apply for and qualify for these exemptions would have to show either $15,000 in sales or $15,000 in farm expenses to qualify for those exemptions. So that's pretty much in a nutshell what we're asking. The supporting documents are here with it. That talks about state statute, talks about what the definition of farming is. We also have added on page 7, 8, and 9 are basically drafts of, what that ordinance could look like in town. And this is based on the Connecticut Farm Bureau has recommendations on these ordinances. Jackie had handed out to you also a list of regional towns that have farm ordinances right now. Many of them have adopted different ordinances, or I should say, some level of these ordinances to support the right to farm, as well as the tax exemptions on farm machinery and farm buildings. So we're happy to entertain any questions you have. Just to let you know, Jackie and her partner, Spencer Cardaviano, also run Willow Valley Farm. We have probably almost 70 different properties in town that are on PA 490, which is Public Act 490, which allows an exemption or a tax reduction on the assessment of their property. So we can say that there are, almost 70 properties in town that really have what we consider farmland in town. How productive they are, I can't say. Right now, and Kara just ran some new numbers for us. At present, there's only 5 farms in town that currently apply for and are eligible for an exemption on farm machinery. And all of those, their farm machinery at present is under 60,000 that they get an exemption. So they wouldn't even come anywhere close to the 250,000 that's mandated. But we'd like to also try to encourage new business in town, or think about farmers who are in town. They may want to add on some production, add some machinery, maybe add a building that will help them to be more productive. And these are the ways that these are some of the measures that towns have to try to support farming.
I do have a couple of questions. Thank you, first of all. And my mindset in general is supportive, the concept. I do have some questions about sort of the application of it.
Yeah.
Knowing that some towns, sort of similar to us, don't have ordinances such as Ashford and Chaplin. Do you have any sort of feeling as to why that is? Have there been attempts made that failed, or has it just not come up?
We've asked them, some of them about that. Some of them feel that the statute itself, the Connecticut statutes already, give license to that, that they didn't feel they needed to adopt an ordinance per se.
There's essentially duplicate of the state statute, right?
Exactly.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
That
some
was
of these towns have some ordinances, just not all 3 that were.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was one of the comments that I had run into in looking into this, is that some people have sort of just a functional idea that if the state law has already set it in place, you don't have to essentially repeat the state law. Which is different between right to farming versus the tax exemption, because the state law just makes it possible for the town to do it for the tax exemptions, right? I'm understanding that correctly?
Yeah, there's a
Versus-
minimum exemption for the machinery, but the town has to opt in to
For the
an
rate.
additional
Right,
exemption,
right.
and for the buildings, there's no state mandated
Right.
exemption.
So the state allows the town the option to select the greater. Whereas the ordinance itself is essentially duplicate of the state law. But okay, that was some of the things I had learned so far, and I wanted to see if you saw it the same way. Do you have any other sort of pre-running you've done this through in like any of the other committees or commissions in town have looked at it yet? Or has the zoning office looked at it to see if they see anything that's land use questions or conflicting with other?
No, we haven't run
Okay.
it through any other boards or commissions. We
Okay.
just, thought we'd start here. And
Okay.
see which direction you wanna go.
First off, from my perspective, and this just speaks to the agenda. When I first saw the agenda, first thing I looked up was the ordinance that established the Conservation Commission. The language of this item on the agenda should have been a little bit more verbose as to what it was really about. For the benefit of the people who live here and who do scan the agendas. If you're a farmer, you would have never picked this up from the agenda. And I think that could have been done better. And quite honestly, and I think that Mr. Marco and I have chatted about this occasionally before we were on the board. That we're trying to engage the residents in what goes on in town. And our agendas have to be a little bit more explanatory as to what's coming before a board or commission. As far as this whole concept, I had been through all these documentation before tonight, so I'm familiar with it. I'm in support of it, but it's going to require a town meeting, and I think there's going to be questions that need to be answered by planning and zoning, wetlands, EDC, the assessor. And before this would go to a town meeting, we need to have that information ready to go in a digestible form. Otherwise, I'm good with it all.
Agreed. I think it's a good idea. I think one of the best ways to preserve open space in a small town is to have legislation that allows or encourages those landowners to keep their land in its natural state, instead of why buy it if you don't have to. I mean, if you allow people to farm and you encourage people to keep it, the reason they sell it is because it's too expensive to keep for the most part. If it was cheaper to keep, they would. So I think it's a great idea to pursue this.
Okay, do we want to give any recommendations on how how we would like the Conservation Commission to proceed, like to gather that information and I mean, I can only direct so much of it within the building because I can only like send an email to people and say, hey, you need to take a look at this. I could go to the land use, have a discussion with them because they're staff in the building, but the commissions.
Is something that the Conservation Commission would like to shepherd through those channels?
Sure, I mean, we can do that. We can say that we met with you and that you suggested that we bring it to them for comment. And their comments should be directly to the Board of Selectmen or.
I think as long as the comments are written, it can be back to you and then you, and just to kind of check on those things, as Ralph said, I think we were both thinking similar things, is that to make sure that we don't create some sort of conflict somewhere in the various, or if there's some alignment that needs to be made, that we can do that. I suspect, as you said, we're gonna find it aligns a lot already with what sort of the long-term planning intentions have been.
So do you want to get back in touch with the tax assessor though, since that may be something that you would like to know more about, in terms of the impact to town revenue, those kinds of things?
I guess what I would suggest is if you're gonna be spearheading the next part of the conversation, is if you would maybe reach out to Mike D'Amato.
Yeah.
start the conversation with him. If you wanna CC me, that's fine. I'll help make sure it gets around to the right places. I'll have a conversation with Kara and make sure that we have the understanding of what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
It looks like. With our. Well, we got 5 farms on here now.
So those 5 farms are claiming the equipment exemption, so she listed what farm buildings they have
Right.
to assume that they would claim that exemption. But there could be other farms, or some of those farms could not claim the building exemption. And I think the $5,000 number at the bottom is the equipment exemption, which currently is state statute anyways, so that amount is already exempt. So it'd just be the $12,000 number.
Right.
That would be a potential impact on the taxes for the buildings.
Right.
Are these numbers what it would be if these ordinances were enacted, or
If they
is
were
this what
to-
they are now?
The 5,000 is what what the equipment exemption is now.
This exemption's already happening.
And
This would be the
12,000
additional potential exemption here, the 12,754.
That's just assuming that those same farmers would claim an exemption on their buildings.
Right, and there could be a different farm who maybe comes into this, who maybe doesn't have machinery, might have a building.
Right.
But based on what Kara knows, this would be the total impact. Under $20,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the assessed value for those buildings would be $500,000, so at our current mill rate. The taxes that would be foregone, as she says, it would be $12,000
Total. Yeah.
total for all those buildings, yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Jess, my thought about ordinances, if we were going to just simply mimic the language of the state ordinance, I would recommend we don't do that. We just simply reference the state ordinance, because then if that changes, we don't necessarily have to redo our own ordinances. But if we were gonna create something new for property tax, which would be unique to Wellington, then yes, that would have to be a standalone ordinance.
Right, I do think that I think there's a certain procedural value to not duplicating the state, and the biggest reason that I've seen in other communities is. Every time there's a revision in the state statute or in the local, they get misaligned.
That's what I.
And then you end up in a situation where some of the larger towns spend. Tens and tens of thousands of dollars paying a contractor to come in and go through all of their local. And make sure it aligns with the state, and then they recodify all their stuff. Put it all back out, it's basically a big administrative exercise, and it's the worst where they have things that duplicate the state laws. So, yes, I would say we want to be
That's what I
as
mean.
minimal as possible on duplicating the state laws.
Wellington just did that, we just recodified all the
Right.
zoning regulations to align with state statutes, and
Right.
quite a lot of work.
Yes,
However, there's another twist to that, though. If we were to create these ordinances and the state were to change the statutes and grandfather existing ordinances, then by not having the ordinance, we hurt the farmers in town. In other words, let's say, all right, they get the 500,000 exemption. And the state sometime down the road decides, well, we don't like that statute anymore. But towns have already adopted this. So those towns that have adopted this can continue forward. But if we just simply reference the statute, then we've got to go backwards.
yeah, that's sort of a unique example. Of. Sort
Because
of
there are some things.
legal chess.
There are some
Yeah.
things that have occurred over the years where, if the town had already established a rule or regulation or ordinance about something. That could stand, even though the state statute changed. And
All
the
right.
statutes allow for that.
So this is probably why some conversation with planning and land use and all that will be good to be effective.
And in terms of the language of the ordinances, that might be something that we need to run through legal.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, absolutely.
So, you know, what I'd like to ask is if you could at least look through the suggested language, and if there's something there you think that should be changed. That would be.
I have already, and I have not to this point, just because of billable hours with the attorneys, I have not sent anything to attorneys yet until we got a little further along in this process.
Sure.
One of the questions that came up in reviewing it is, some ordinance systems try to avoid the, non-ordinance language, like the stuff that is more, purpose, and it explains it, but it's not the actual hard legal language. Sometimes is put in a resolution or in the plan of conservation development or other places, as opposed to actually being in the list, and the ordinances are much more black and white and brief about the specific legal implications.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be something we'll talk about going forward. If, you know, if the sort of purpose and background stuff moves to a different place.
Okay, all right, so just to recap, we're going to bring this forward to planning and zoning, to EDC.
Yeah, so if you start with Mike D'Amato, tell him that you wanna consider those departments, if you wanna CC me on it, that way if there's any question, I'll make sure to help push that along.
Yeah. Do you want us to go through board of finance or just?
I wouldn't yet, because let's see kind of what the rest, really where I believe it will matter for Board of Finance, and the chairman's sitting right behind you. Would be when we kind of think we have the plan mapped out, and we can again look at what the financial impact is. What's gonna be the impact on taxation?
Okay.
I think, I got a thumbs up from behind you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And duly noted on the agenda clarity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so.
I strive to figure out better and better how we do that. And this one kind of, because we had already talked about it briefly at a previous meeting, I thought, oh, well, we know that. But that doesn't mean the public does.
No, when I first looked at the agenda, I'm thinking, what's up with the Conservation Commission ordinance?
Right.
There's two.
Right.
What do we change?
Right. Understood.
And to know some of the background for an agenda item, it's extremely, I'm sure.
I agree. Okay, so. Next item is new business, item B, finance office staffing. Just to preface both of these staffing conversations. We don't normally really kind of talk about staffing too much in the selectmen's meeting. That's really more of an in the building situation in most days and times. But these two particular staffing positions, have a significant impact on the town's operations and on this board. So I thought it would be appropriate to put them in the agenda and specifically discuss them, in this venue, and I have permission of the two staff to discuss the situation in public. So first, finance office staffing, our, finance office, business manager, Donna, who everybody knows and has been a very long time employee and is a pivotal player in our budget process, planning and all that, is, going to be going on leave to care for a sick family member. Again, I have permission to say this in public. Starting at the end of January. This obviously causes concern on how we manage the budget process because she is a pivotal player in the budget process. Phil Stevens and I met, she came to Phil Stevens and I to tell us and started the conversation because me representing the town operations and Phil representing the school, we are basically the two agencies that use the finance office. It's a shared service office. The payroll, all the finances of the school system, as well as the town operations are all in that office. So Phil and I took that invitation to sort of teamwork, how we're gonna manage this. It was, I would say, a slightly panicked 4 hours of figuring out how you work around the loss of an incredibly important pivotal player. And what the potential solutions are, particularly coming into budget season. And solutions that are the most effective for the short term, while that person has the opportunity to use their rightful family leave and see what's happening with their situation. It's not like we could just say, oh, well, we'll just hire a replacement. First of all, you gotta get that person up to speed. Second of all, Donna still works here. She deserves to have her job when when things in her life change and she wants to come back. Um. So. Bill and I met with Donna, and then we met with the whole group. And then we met with each employee of the finance office independently to get feedback and ideas. And then we called another person who works in the schools, who has previously covered during down when we're needed to fill in here in the finance office, and has experience in the software, the right credentials, the right sort of, I don't want to say security checks, but basically is a trusted employee that has access and is proven to be able to operate within our financial systems successfully. And we have hatched a temporary plan that will allow for some extra hours for the current employees to cover the workload, redistribute the workload, cover it. And we will bring an employee in, this other employee from the school system for a certain amount of hours to also help assist with that. And that will be sort of our temporary plan. We'll see while, this is going on. We have no way to know right now how much time Donna will need.
Right.
We do know that by law, FMLA is limited to 12 weeks. But that doesn't necessarily mean 12 calendar weeks. For example, if the employee is able to work 2 days a week, that's 12 weeks up to 3 days a week added up, cumulative. So we don't know what the future holds right now. This is the stopgap plan. Everyone in the office here was great. They immediately started figuring out the duties, who can do what, who's already been cross-trained on his jobs. And we got that other employee on the phone. She was ready to go, absolutely willing to pitch in.
Good.
I think the spirit of working together to support budget season was really good. And the person who's gonna act in Donna's behalf as the sort of acting manager already has experience in some of the key programs that Donna uses and is a spreadsheet wizard, which is very important for the budget process. So I just want to share that, that this is abnormal that we would spend so much time discussing staffing, but because it's so impactful, here we are. Any questions from you guys?
Does our treasurer weigh in on this at all? Do they have any?
The treasurer, the treasurer is aware, the treasurer. I don't remember how much conversation was, I don't think there was a lot of conversation with the treasurer, because the treasurer's hours are very limited.
They're very small.
And the function is very, this really is mostly a staff issue in the building for the full-time staff to manage. Particularly because these people are all in the building 5 days a week.
Sure.
So, any questions on the finance? No, okay. And then the other one. Selectmen's office staffing, again, we're discussing it here because it's a critical role. Shannon is leaving us in February. To pursue another job opportunity. Congratulations to her.
Congratulations.
And so I have already shared the current job spec. Which was pretty weak on details.
Yes.
It was a little shameful. And that's not to cast anything on previous people, it doesn't capture what the job is today.
Well, the job's evolved over time too.
Sure.
The
And
tools we have.
And we've changed the job over the years. The job way back when was actually office manager. And then was changed to administrative assistant, and it's ebbed and flowed over the years. So here's our opportunity to ebb or flow again. And So Shannon has given me some suggestions on what's missing from there. You have given me some suggestions.
I have some more.
Okay, I have also, been getting, some feedback within the building because this role that Shannon plays is it's really like a hub role to the building functions. And, we need to try to get it right. And, Shannon is very eager to help us prepare for the transition, and if we can get the job spec ready and get the hiring done and approved, and the whole thing can happen before she leaves, we can have a little overlap time.
Good.
To help train that person, which will ease the transition immensely. Shannon does not have an end date yet because of the process for the other job.
Sure.
After they get through background checks and everything else, her expectation is what, middle to end of February?
There's a little time, then that's good.
Yeah, but we'll chew that time up quickly between
Absolutely.
finishing the job spec, advertising, waiting a couple weeks for
Mhm.
applications to come in, interviews, all that stuff.
All that stuff. Is there any internal approval process for the job specifications does it have to go?
There
through?
really is no formal approval process. I mean, I could have just said good enough, send it out.
Sure, no, I'm just curious, just
But
changing it.
my hope was that more minds, a better job.
Yes, and we
So
should
the union has
get
no say in that.
No.
Okay.
No,
we should get this accomplished before our next meeting, actually.
I'm getting, I mean, today I had the 2 or 3 more inputs today
Mhm.
for ideas, so. As I get the inputs, I'm doing edits on the job spec to incorporate the inputs, so. My goal would be to have a new draft out to you guys for, some, I mean, this board doesn't have to approve it, but. For your, feedback and everything, kind of hopefully a finalized draft for your feedback,
Excellent.
by the end of the week,
I didn't have any, I thought, it looks fine.
so. Any questions on that?
Not for me.
All right. Okay, old business.
Well, I had a couple things,
go ahead.
just a couple of FYIs. I'd like to make a motion, that we add an item D, just an FYI, just a reminder.
New business, item D.
No, I need to talk about, the Kettle Rock property. And I'd like to add an item E about, the, possible grant for Station 13 that could still be in the works.
All right, let's do those both as old business and they've been
Okay.
discussed before.
So that's fine.
All right, so,
C and D.
so, I move we add an item 11C for Kettle Rock.
Is there no policy? This is just an FYI that I don't want to lose track of.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I move that we add an item 11D. Or,
Oh, Station 13, right?
Station 13 grant.
Yeah.
Can I get a second? Ralph is the second, I believe.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Okay. Okay, so old business, item A, school building ad hoc appointment, the parentheses on non-voting is just to be clear, this is not a voting appointment. It is typical practice, and I think it's prudent in our situation as well. The superintendent of schools be appointed as an ad hoc member, again, a non-voting member, which allows the superintendent to participate in the conversation without it having to be just during person to speak. So I would like to move that we appoint the superintendent, Phil Stevens, to the school building committee as an ad hoc, non-voting appointment.
I'll second for discussion.
All right, let's have some discussion.
Here's, all right, my concern, having been served on a previous school building committee. I felt that the superintendent had way too much influence on the consultant that was used for SBC. I think any consultant is responsible to the SBC. Period. input as far as specific questions regarding the facility, of course, always go back to the superintendent. But I want any consultant that this committee engages to be responsive to the committee. And minimize any outside conversations between the consultant and superintendent, unbeknownst to the committee.
I think that's an important point, and I would see that being addressed as public comment to the committee at the kickoff. And I have some comments on the agenda for the kickoff meeting, on the draft agenda that there'll be sort of some kickoff information to help them get started. And I think that that's a great time to talk about the importance and the difference between voting members, alternate members, ad hoc members, some sort of procedural things. And that I'll do a reminder about about FOIA. If anyone wants FOIA information, we have we recently grabbed a hold of a packet of information from the FOIA Commission that was used in a presentation for another town, which the FOIA Commission shared. I've given that to the town clerk. We're gonna make that available to all the different commissions. As it's a printout of a PowerPoint for people to look through and get. It's an official FOIA Commission outreach document, basically, and so things like that.
I think the use of the word ad hoc is misplaced in this particular.
I wondered that. So I looked it up. I looked up the legal definition, and I believe that is the correct.
I'm not so sure, because I looked up the definition as well, so.
In Connecticut?
Yes. So,
What do you believe would be a better?
well, usually an ad hoc committee or is something for short-term specific task.
Yep.
School building committee is not a short-term.
A school building committee is an ad hoc committee by law.
Is
It
it
is an
really?
ad hoc committee because it is not a standing committee. A standing committee is intended to run year after year after year, not for a single purpose.
So, but yeah, we're not calling the school building committee an ad hoc committee.
It is an ad hoc committee by definition. You don't have to call it that. It already is.
Then the use of ad hoc in this agenda item is really kind of redundant.
No, because he's an ad hoc member,
Okay,
which ad hoc members are inserted into a committee by legal definition to provide a narrow purpose, a certain purpose on the
Yeah.
committee. In other words, the connection with the superintendent here is the purpose.
well, I
And
understand.
ad hoc members sometimes do not stay on a committee for the entire life of the committee.
So we have an ad hoc member of an ad hoc committee.
It means that they're not voting and they're not an alternate.
No, I get
They're
that.
there to provide information. I mean, I wanted to try to be as prepared for the discussion as possible, so I looked up
Oh,
that.
good. It's good that you already have. I'm not gonna make a big deal of it in words, I just. My earlier statement about his involvement with the committee stands.
I think that's important information.
As far as the use of the ad hoc phrase. I'm not gonna make a big deal of it.
It is a lot of influence over people, I think, that needs to be handled carefully,
Certainly.
that,
Well, I mean, the superintendent is a critical role in the planning of a school. too.
you would think so, yes. That does seem so.
Any more discussion?
No, again, and he's right, he has a lot of influence, superintendent has a lot of influence over the school board, a lot of influence over a building committee. And the building committee really is representing the town's interest with respect to a facility. The superintendent's role in that is to make sure that the facility is adequate for the.
Educational program.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yep.
And not a wish list of wouldn't it be nice to have kind of items?
Right, well, and I think that will be very easy to see. If any member of the committee is going. Is proposing, and they may even propose some things, like should we consider whatever, right? That should be the committee process. Just like last time there was discussion about an auditorium. Right, so there may be features now this time, whether they're energy saving features or whether they're certain types of study room features that maybe wouldn't be required in the minimum, but someone feels a good idea. All kinds of things like that will probably come up.
Oh, of course.
And I think if anyone's going too far out, hopefully the committee brings it back to what is reasonable and in the interest of the town, as you said. In the interest of the town is building a school that delivers the education.
Right, in a manner that the town can afford.
Also in the interest of the town, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing else.
All right, so we have a motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Election
passes unanimously. Thank you. Board commission appointments. We have we have currently 2 vacancies on the zoning board of appeals. We have one interested person, Mr. John Tehan, who is in the room. We have his letter of interest. He has various different types of experience and connection in town. And we'd like to just take a minute, John, and express your interest.
Hi, thanks so much. I think that my experience on the Planning and Zoning Commission for several years. I was vice chair of that committee for 2 years. I think that that experience will serve me well in a capacity on the zoning board of appeals. I think it'd be good at what's required of a member of that committee. And I'd be honored to be part of that committee and make things happen for the town.
And you understand that committee sometimes maybe only meets once a year if there's a need,
Yeah,
or might meet 2 or 3 times a year, depending on the need.
right. I looked at last year, there was like 6, 7 meetings last year, all told. They're scheduled
Yeah,
one.
that was a
month, but
busy
they get
year.
canceled a lot. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
And the challenge you probably already know, but the challenge to ZBA is you're in a position of sort of adjudicating the rules that have already been applied.
Mhm.
Understanding carefully what the rules are, because you may have to make a decision to override staff decisions or things like that. And
Right.
so an understanding of the rules and of the request of the person putting the appeal in.
Yeah.
will-
Yeah, when I was on planning and zoning, they gave us the Bible. It was about this thick of all the planning and zoning rules. I can confess I never read the whole thing, but I did refer to it as needed. And I think that I'd be fine being able to weigh those decisions and make accurate decisions.
As a former chair of planning and zoning, I have a couple questions for you, John.
Sure.
I have watched CBA over the years. CBA gets a little too liberal with their statutory authority. And one section that I think you need to pay close attention to in your zoning regulations is the zoning board of appeals special exception process, what you can and what you cannot allow exceptions to. Specifically, the way our regulations had been promulgated was that you could provide exceptions where the regulations allow you to, not anywhere throughout that book. There's a lot in that book. And hardship is the key issue with ZBA. And of course, one of the things you cannot be is you cannot be on the ZBA and planning and zoning, because that's a conflict.
Right.
I mean, I certainly welcome you on board for that.
You're not secretly on plan and zone.
I'm
You don't know about?
not to my knowledge.
No, I don't think he is.
resolved.
He serves as Santa.
It just, my observations over the years, watching, and having spent 15 years with planning and zoning. I've seen a lot of. Variances be allowed. That statutorily and regulatory wise should not have been granted.
Mhm.
So. I would hope you would be mindful of
No,
walking that
fair.
line very carefully.
I'll call you, Ralph, if I have any questions.
Andy?
No, I think I think John would be a good member of the team.
Great, and to everybody listening, we still have one opening on ZBA. So if there's somebody out there in town who would have interest in the same thing we just talked about. Please contact either Mike D'Amato in the Planning and Land Use Department or contact the Selectman's office. Okay, so having said all that, all those.
Do we have a term?
Oh, we do, hang on, we have a term.
Good.
Um,
Peggy just came up today and said we need him, so vote tonight.
well, no, I'm trying to remember if that
If
one
it's still a
has.
vacancy, it would go to the next municipal.
Yeah, and it,
One second.
Probably,
On the other
probably
agenda.
November 17th or something, 2020.
That was on the other agenda.
2027.
yeah,
Wasn't it?
sorry that we don't have that,
Give me 1 second.
you're getting it, okay. Stand by.
Nobody talked about it.
It's funny because I fought so hard on this next one, I fought so hard to get the correct terms on this next one and forgot to put it on
That's why
here.
I asked about this one.
Right.
What's their regular meeting? Is it the third or fourth Thursday of the month?
I think it's the third. If I remember correct.
ZBA.
Yeah, pretty sure it's the. Is it third or second? I believe there's one.
Well,
on the
first day of the
13th.
month.
Are you ready for the one on the 13th?
The one on
Yeah.
the 13th is the second Thursday, so yeah, I think it's the second Thursday.
Yeah, I think they tried to avoid Board of Finance on the third.
Yeah,
Who was it who didn't accept it?
Rick Maloney. And his term was different because he was a reappointment. That's why
Okay.
we had to, and it does go to the next election.
Well, there's
Like,
not an elected office though, now that.
Oh, no, right, no,
It's
it's
an appointed
appointed,
office, yes.
Yeah, so
So-
Richard, oh. His
Yeah.
term expired December 2025, hasn't been updated yet.
Well, no.
but we had the,
Oh, it's the.
He gets it at 15.
2 years.
it was the 1 year, 2 year, 3 year one,
Right,
yeah.
and first Selectman McCool moved to Richard Maloney.
Right,
When
he was the 4 year term, yes.
And if he's the one that didn't accept it, wouldn't John just
Yes.
fulfill this
Okay.
4 year term? So
Okay.
12/25 to 12/29.
Had I made the motion?
You made the motion on the 15th.
No, did I make the motion tonight yet?
Not for the term. Well, I thought you made the motion for John, but not,
Yeah.
Okay.
no term applied.
So, if did you seconded? Did Ralph second?
Yes.
Okay, so if you'll accept a friendly amendment, I'll add the term,
Okay. that's
which is, from, December of 2025 to December of 2029. They did not have the exact date.
Yeah, I remember that was the
Yeah.
4 year seat.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now we know what we're voting. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you.
Okay, whoops, I put the other one, I flipped the other one over already, hang on, okay. Okay. We have, two terms for the, rec park, and is it the Park and Rec Commission or the Recreation Commission? One,
I think it's Parks and Rec, Parks and Recreation Commission.
okay. We have two. Yeah, we have two terms that expired in December that weren't caught and need to be, they would like to be reappointed for the next 3 year, they're both 3 year appointments, so I move that we reappoint Joseph Colangelo. To a term of 12/14/25 to 12/14/28.
Second.
All right, any discussion? Joe did previously, has been serving as the chair, has been on there for a while. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move that we reappoint Mike Panati for a term of 12/15/25 to 12/15/28.
Second.
That, I'm sorry, that should have been 12/14/28. Sorry, there was a typo in here.
Oh,
Okay,
Well, yeah, one of them's,
Yeah.
what was it, Joe Colangelo's?
no, it's supposed to be,
They're both 12/14.
this is supposed to be 12/14 ending date, 28.
Okay.
Yep. Any discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright. Okay. Item 11C, Cato Rock.
okay, this is just an FYI. I know that there's been some chatter from Ashford about things are moving. If I remember right, there was $20,000 for legal services under the budget of, that still should be riding in the town budget, but make sure that that's enough as we go into the next budget season. Things could be happening rather quickly. Ashford is the driving that bus, but we are definitely part of it. And that's all I had to say about that. And then, again, that's just my FYI for that.
Okay, and I will add a comment to that, because there's an update as of literally this afternoon.
Okay.
The grant that you previously heard me talking about, from the Department of Economic.
Yes.
DECD,
Something
was
like
it?
that.
Economic and Community Development. That was announced by the governor a couple weeks back, that, there's a planning committee initiated by the DECD,
Mhm.
and started, their next step was to pull in the people from Ashford who created the grant application
Right.
and all that.
Yep.
And then they reached out to me today.
Good.
And so we're having a Zoom meeting later this week
Excellent.
to have the first discussion about what does this next thing look like? What the contractor and what the $200,000 grant are set up to do and how to get it rolling.
Okay, good.
So that there'll be new information on that,
Okay.
hopefully later this week.
And then the next item, I just want another FYI, just about if we do get that grant that was applied for Station 13, that's very broad. And I don't know if it falls under the charge of the Facilities Building Committee, the current committee, or, but because that was so specific to that one property, we need to have someone needs to develop a plan for that. And, that's it, that's all I don't wanna lose sight of those things, because they can come up quickly and we need to be prepared as a board.
Yes.
So, that's all I have for those.
So I will tag on to that, that. Do you have any updates on the status for the Facilities Building Committee? The last meeting, we were gonna have a draft summary by the weekend after that meeting.
Which didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which didn't really, if we're gonna talk about the ESFPC right now? Is that-
Well, I mean, if you wanna add another agenda item, it just, you got me thinking about it with the Station 13, because that
Okay.
is, the corrective work to that building is
Right,
related.
it is related. I mean, we certainly can talk about it.
Alright, I move we add item 11E, Emergency Services Facilities Building Committee.
All right, well, let's move right into that.
Oh, wait, we gotta vote on that.
No, we gotta vote on that.
All those in favor?
Yeah, we have a second.
Aye.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah, you second.
I'm in favor. Okay.
A little loose.
Where we stand with that, we did with the crux of the matter for me right now, which we will be discussing at our next meeting, which is Thursday. Will be, we got the final bill from Fitch and Associates.
Was that the final?
We have the final 2 installments to pay. And I am not convinced that we have received everything that we believe we have. I reread the proposal and I reread the contract but it's, I mean, it's not my decision, it's the committee's decision to see that. We do have time about the payment. It was, I don't think it had to be paid until the end of the month. It was like net 60 or something, but I asked Rajiv about that, obviously. And, so we said we have time. We just have to make a decision as a committee. Do we feel that Fitch has honored all of the parts of the RFP? Are we satisfied with it? And are we gonna get anything else from them? And that's where we stand on that.
Yeah, because I think he owes us, some face time.
Yes, and maybe the committee will see that as well. I don't know. Well, that will be pretty much be the topic of discussion for our next meeting.
And will we have the summary for that meeting?
God, I hope so.
So I mean, I think that he believes he has sent the summary. That is my impression.
Okay, Warren, we gonna make one of our own?
Our own summary.
No, I'm in the process of writing an introduction
Okay.
to the report
Right,
that precedes his executive summary.
yes, right.
I would just wanted to put something together that was in ordinary language.
Mhm.
And
That we can
you
speak to.
know all of the technical terminology having to do with emergency services. I don't. A lot of the public does not.
Right.
I want the public to understand this in common terms. And
that's a-
lead into the executive summary and Pitch's.
That's a valuable thing, not only for the public at large, but also if we're taking something to Board of Finance or whatever else. Which is why I'm getting antsy about this thing, because we're well into budget season.
Yes.
We
So,
are, yes, on that thought, something that I've been pondering for some time is. I'm not sure, I am cautious about how much we can ask of. The members of the town that are participating in this, because the school building committee. And anything to do with the fires, it's the exact same people. So there is, I think, I mean, as far as. There's a capacity issue about what people can handle, what the townspeople can.
Right, yeah.
I think we just need to be mindful of how we proceed, and
Yes,
now we throw in this mix of, to me, this other, it could be significant. I mean, the grant was just under 500,000, which is not insignificant. Specifically for Station 13, not any other building or property in the town. So
But that was also conditional upon the town pulling up some funds.
$3.2 million project,
That's
right?
it. So there's some murkiness there that we need to be careful that
Well, and that.
we don't derail ourselves by asking too much of the very, very same people that are involved in so many.
Which I think is a good reason for us to at least get the report
Absolutely,
wrapped up now before
Absolutely.
school building committee
Yes.
kicks in.
absolutely.
And budget season kicks in and all that other stuff,
Yeah.
get the report wrapped up so that people can
I
digest it.
totally agree.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not making excuses,
Yeah.
I'm just being, these are. Things that we need to just be aware of,
Yes.
I believe.
And the problem with the grant, as it relates to ESFPC, is the one station, two station scenario.
Well, that's right.
Right.
That's right,
Yeah.
the grant doesn't speak to that at all.
No, it doesn't, but it doesn't speak to Old Farms Road either.
No, it doesn't, no, it doesn't. That's so. Maybe like a plan, some other. It may work out to our favor overall.
Yes, it may.
So, but,
all right, so more to come on Thursday night at that meeting.
I certainly hope so.
yeah, well,
All right.
thank you for letting me add those items, they've been on my mind.
All right. Good and welfare. First, I'd like to point out what we've already talked about. That we're losing a pivotal part of our team right here. Shannon's been with us 2.5 years,
2 years, it was 2 years in December,
and it's all been wonderful, right?
peaches and cream. I have no complaints whatsoever, everybody is fantastic.
All right, we are also, at least for the short term, we are losing Donna from the finance department, and she is a 30-some-year town employee, I believe.
That's great.
So that will be felt from a functional point of view, and also, she's part of the family here.
Yeah. What can we do to make sure that morale stays high within that office? Is there any way we can
I was very encouraged this past week about all the conversations and how supportive everyone was of Donna. And of, no one was grumbling about they was gonna put extra work on them.
Excellent.
Everyone was willing to work extra hours, do extra work. And sit by Donna's side and learn some of the things she needs to share over these next couple of weeks. I think at least initially, the group is strong.
Good.
And we just need to support them as we figure out, what Donna's long range plan is.
All right.
Yeah, that will be an evolving situation.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
And her exit is now the end of the month, end of this month.
January 23rd, I believe is her last day.
No. Things will coast along as normal for a couple of weeks then. Good.
All right, anything else for good and welfare? Back to present to speak. We'll start online this time first. Anyone online present to speak? Okay.
We'll have left on
All right, we'll go to the room.
it.
John T.
I just want to remind the board that there's currently an opening on library board, that does need to be filled. So, I don't know, I believe that you've received one, letter of interest, on the position. I don't know what anybody
You don't
else.
know that I expressed that? We'll look.
Yes, the one,
Okay, we'll
talked about
review that
numbers.
tomorrow. Okay. Hang on, I'm adding it to my notes for tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Anybody else?
Harold Ditchich, 97 Trask Road. I want to express my strong objection to the action taken tonight by the Board of Selectmen adding the superintendent of schools to the school building committee. This is a major departure from past practice in our community. Historically, every elected official and unelected official was part of our school building committees as a resource in an ex officio capacity. That was true for the last school building committee and the previous school building committee and the building committee that was responsible for town garage. Why we need to make this change is deeply concerning. It's not a semantical game. It's obviously wanting to expand the influence, as Ralph and Andy expressed concerns about, of the superintendent over this school building project, whatever form it may take. And that should not be. We already have a situation where the CIP chair and the Board of Education chair are members of our school building committee. We need townspeople to be on these committees because it is a town committee that is responsible to the town. We can't have town officials directing outcomes that they seek to pursue. And that's clearly what's happening here, and I'm deeply disappointed to see the direction this is taking. Thank you for your time.
I understand your concerns. I respect your concerns. Some of the things you said are not facts, though. They're not true, and that has to be clarified. First of all, the superintendent was a member of the previous school building committee. I know that because I was chair, which you remember because you were on the school building committee as well. He was a non-voting member, but he was a member of the committee. Second of all, he is one of our public officials and employees who has some of the greatest knowledge of what happens in the school and needs to be in the school. He's also the person who has to fill out the application for the grant. His influence, to an extent, is appropriate. I understand your concerns, but it seems very obvious to me, this is appropriate, and you certainly should bring concerns during the meetings if you feel that influences too much. But please, try to make sure that you separate what you feel is wrong from what the facts are.
Point of order.
Public can't actually do point of order, but if you have a concern, I'll hear it.
I can't, I can.
You can express a concern, it's present to speak.
My concern is that any member of this board would editorialize what people say during present to speak. That is our time to speak, and it should be limited to that. Thank you very much.
And I think this board has a responsibility to clarify facts. And that is my privilege as the board chair. Any other business? Motion to adjourn?
Is there others?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, other present to speak.
Sir, I'm hesitating to, but
Go.
Steph Summers, Wide Road. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. First of all, congratulate Shannon on her movement into a new career path or whatever. And also while it sounds like you're gonna move kind of fast on figuring out a job description and everything. I thought the discussion was good about that. I just would encourage you to think about the website change, maybe not as the first thing, well, factor that in because it feels like it's gonna be with us longer than a typical sort of tech changeover. And they're always, sea change is always hard, but a lot of times it's a short-term pain thing. I'm not sure that's the case here, because it's also been, there's a lot of players who have primary responsibility for pages on the website. And there may be some that feel comfortable with that, some that don't. And so I think as far as keeping it like as tight as it can be, as informative as it can be, as accurate as it can be, maybe something that a staff person needs to look out for, and that may be part of this new position. So I'm just recommending that because I'm seeing how these guys were already struggling with it. And I think that would be good for the town because we've all kind of agreed communication is a key area that we need to focus on. I'm really happy that the town provides opportunities for its employees to take personal leave, family leave when they need to, because none of that waits for the budget year or anything else. None of that is dictated by what the precepts of the job are. And this is, Don's really valued in the town's employee. And speaking as Board of Finance Chair, of course, my heart stopped momentarily, but I think I really want to applaud you guys for having the foresight that you needed to jump right on this and working with you. You already have a plan that's pretty in shape. And it sounds doable and good, and I really appreciate that because we are starting a little bit early. We're starting with the first presentations on January 29th. That's 1 week earlier than we usually start. And we have one less week on the other end because of some other changes. So I'm just complimenting you on that and wanting to be up on how that process goes because we're gonna be sort of restricted in terms of having a lot of extra time to figure things out on the Board of Finance. So just want to make sure that we have everything sort of communicated and shared with that and wish her well.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, now we'll go to a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn at 8:15 PM.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.